upgrade your DStv package to enjoy all the content you love. That means if you're on Access and you upgrade to Family, you get boosted to Compact. If you're on Family and you upgrade to Compact, you get boosted to Compact Plus. And if you're on Compact and you upgrade to Compact Plus, you get boosted all the way to Premium.
Jik cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home. Jik, your family's guardian against germs and COVID-19.
What I see for myself is being an airline pilot.
Shouldn't just relate with the opposite sex.
Men are expected to be strong, not to show emotions.
We call it the bread basket of Kikuyu because there is a lot of farming activities.
Most of my family were military.
So this one day, the Taliban came over to in front of my house. They took my car. My house door is open. And luckily my family is not there.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Managing expectations. This is what Raila is doing right now. As you can see him carrying that particular basket with oranges that are dropping one by one, and he's walking on eggshells. If we just remove the strap so we can see it in full there. This is quite a balancing act right now because we have also rebels within the ODM who want to form an anti-Raila liberation movement to try and, of course, get some of the Luo supporters out of his grip. Will they manage this? This is what also has been drawn here by Stano. Who will blink first? We have the Azimio loyal members and Azimio rebel members. And the parrot says, or she's asking, who will blink first? And this is what is happening currently as far as the politics is concerned within ODM, Jubilee. Also, there is an implosion there. We had the Wiper party leader having his meeting yesterday with his members. And he also quite spoke extensively regarding the Kenya Kwanza's entry into other parties. What other panelists, they call them political banditry. Let's just hear what Kalonzo had to say before we buckle down and continue with our discussion with our panelists.
A shameless effort to legitimize their fraud. The executive has made many attempts to divide the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition. They have openly used public institutions and public resources to entice individual members, quote unquote, in the name of development, to break ranks with their political parties. They have systematically tried to erode all the gains of multiparty democracy under our Constitution 2010 and take this nation back to one-party state. We, the leaders of the Wiper Democratic Movement, want to emphasize We will not allow this country to retrogress to the dark days of the one-party state. Despite all their efforts, we remain united and indeed intact.
That was happening over the weekend, and of course we got to be primed by Honorable Makalimolu on that latest development from Wiper Party. But let's just generally talk about, I want us just to gravitate. I know I'd asked you, Sigay, regarding the CSS. Are we really past that junction? Can someone really challenge that particular ruling that we had from the judges regarding the CSS? But I want us just to get into the political parties. We'll answer that much, much later. But looking at what is happening within ODM, you as a Wiper member, as an Azimio member, what does it really portend for the entire Azimio with these anti-Raila rebels within ODM? This has never happened within Wiper.
Yeah, you know, as I said earlier, Wiper is a very consultative party. And normally what we would do is, anytime you would call our party leader, and you say you want to go and meet the executive, the president or the minister, so long as you have a general reason, they will always tell you can go. But I think what is happening is, in a situation where you are a member of a party, and I remember, we have said this many times, we all had a choice to belong to a political party or to go independent, because the constitution provides for that. So I would have decided to go independent, and I will have no issue with anybody with respect to how I behave, because I'm independent. But immediately you choose to go through a political party, then the political party's act comes into play. You must be able to play within the rules of a political party. And that's why we are saying, what we are saying to me is actually members of parliament not appreciating the fact that they were elected by the voters on the basis of they belonged to a party. And if we really wanted to practice what the law says, it is very clear. If I today decided to shift to Kenya Kwanza, it says you just resign, go back for a fresh mandate from the electorate. But no, that is not what is happening. If you look at the team which went to the State House from ODM, the argument was they'd gone there so that they're able to access development for their constituencies, which makes a lot of sense for anybody. For any politician, so long as something is going to your constituency, because that's what makes you remain in power. People will be happy you have brought water. But the question is, how do you manage to get development from State House? Because State House, first of all, is not a budget-making body. They just get resources appropriated for them the way we would appropriate for another ministry. The other thing is, if you are a member of Parliament, Parliament constitutionally has a huge mandate to make budget. We make budgets in Parliament. So you know, it looks ironical that I'm going to look for development, while on my table I have all the chances of ensuring that development goes to my constituency through budget making, through the issue of equity, because all departmental committees discuss budget. If it is water, they are discussing budget. If it is roads, they are discussing budget. So the place where budgets are made and the place where decisions are made as to what will be implemented where is in departmental committees in Parliament. And the majority of these members are already in those committees. So this idea of just going to, and that's what to me I was saying earlier, maybe the word boat could be strong, and that's what I was saying in quotes, but I think people go there for selfish interests. Selfish interests. Because on a serious note.
But still you've not really answered my question, huh?
Yeah, come back.
I'm asking you about Azimio and this implosion of ODM as well. What does it really portend for Wiper Party? You said you'll stick with Alliance?
Wiper has, we are intact, and we have said very clearly we are sticking with Alliance. And as I said earlier, we had a 2-day retreat where we looked at all the cons and we were able to analyze, to look at what are the advantages, the merits and demerits of remaining in Azimio. And at the end of the day, as leaders who belong to Wiper, we did agree that our interests are better served, because politics is about interest. Our interests currently are better served being in Azimio. That's what we said. Because we looked at all the things we said, as a party, we would want to form government. That's why parties exist. That you form government and govern on the basis of your party manifesto. Now, if we have to form a government, then we must look at where our interests best served so that in the future we are able to form this government. And we are saying that can be better achieved in Azimio. That's why our party leader yesterday did announce publicly that whoever is in Azimio to remain. And we have said also, Dibao, that this was not the other week when we were in Manzoni, and this was Azimio.
Yes.
Azimio also did say publicly that even if they remain with one MP who is loyal to Azimio, they will still remain the official opposition in courts because they don't have it in the constitution. So they will remain the minority leader, even if it is only one MP who remains. You remember this? So this is a clear indication that whoever wants to switch ham, you can switch, but that will not then kill the coalition. The coalition still remains. And now with Wiper, with about 26 members of parliament, and now as me, even if we remain with one in the ODM, those are 27 members who are good enough to check the government. Because Wiper, we are remaining intact, we have said that.
So let me hear from Okongo Mogini with this reaction right now with the anti-Raila liberators. So what does it really portend for ODM? And why this rebel within the party?
Yeah, I mean, first, you know, the way I understand the Constitution, Article 4, Kenya is a multi-party democracy. And I expect people to internalize that fact, that it's not, the way Honorable Makadi has put it, it's not a crime to be a member elected on a party that does not form government. The Constitution, if you read, the Constitution has the majority side, which is the party that forms government, and then the minority side, the party not forming government. And if you read the 2010 Constitution, it's a game changer. Article 6 has two levels of government. There is the national government and there is the county government. In fact, I was telling my colleague, the Senator of Kisumu, that already, without this one, you don't need to beg anybody. You don't need to go to State House. Already you are getting 8.7 billion available to your people of Kisumu. You don't need to beg anybody. That money is coming and it's supposed to provide health care to your people. It's supposed to help your people get water, a little roads here and there. So the money is there to take development to your people. Number two, Parliament, especially the National Assembly, has got massive powers in budget making process. This issue is telling you about roads, Dibal. You'll be shocked to learn that each member of Parliament has money that is allocated to them for maintenance of roads. How much is it?
22%.
22%. Money that is available as you go to State House, the money is with your local MP. So if it's Kisumu, multiply all the constituencies and see how much money is already available to you by law. So this one you don't need to go and beg anybody. This money is already there. Now, issues of development, I think the only thing you need to do as a member of parliament or a senator or as a governor is to push for equity and fairness, because the 2010 Constitution has national values. And national values says you should not have biasness, there should not be nepotism, there should not be unfair favoritism. Those are the things we need to tell our Deputy President, my good friend, Honorable Gachagua, that those are the principles that govern our governance structure. That's why Parliament has been given those massive powers. They sit down. If you look at the budget circle, Honorable Makali, you can tell Kenyans, we start by looking at budget policy statement first, before we go to budget making, you know. And then we have the vision of our country, where do we want to be in 2030? And then we allocate money. Of course, if you want to come and play games, that one now is acting unconstitutionally. If you as a Deputy President want to say that there are regions who should not get development because they elected people from opposition, then you are breaking the Constitution that you saw. When you were sworn in as a Deputy President, you carried that Constitution. So in terms of development, the answer is simple. Every part of this country pays taxes. Yesterday, I told somebody in Nyamira to take a record for me. How many border riders are there in Nyamira? Because every time they fuel, like you go to the petrol pump like this, 54 shillings, pop, goes to the Kenya Revenue Authority. You buy bread, like every person in Nyamira who bought bread this morning, paid tax to the government. So you cannot tell me that those people don't deserve development until you want to give us fuel. Allow us fuel that is not taxed, so that we have petrol stations in opposition areas where tax has been removed. Yeah, if that's what you want to tell us, we go and buy our bread where you remove what? VAT. Then that will be a different thing. So we really need to tell the government to understand that the structure that we have is a structure that allows government to do what it's supposed to do, and the opposition is supposed to check on the government. And the president told us this. He said he wants a strong opposition. So my colleagues in ODM, really, you have a right. Even me, I have a right. When I live here, I have a right to walk to any cabinet secretary's office and raise issues of concern to my people. I mean, that one I don't need to change camp. I don't need to. I have a right to walk and say, this was allocated to us. It was in the budget. Was it why haven't you released money to undertake this project? I don't need to go and say now I've come here because I'm pledging allegiance to UDA.
Yeah.
That is.
But even if the president is desirous of having a very strong opposition, you're not really speaking to what is happening within ODM right now.
Yeah. Now
I need to tell me what is happening.
The final thing I wanted to say is my colleagues in ODM. You know, nobody can force you to belong to a political party. But I hope they were in Parliament. Last Parliament, Honorable Makali will tell you, we passed a law that amended the provisions of the Political Parties Act. And there is a very clear provision on how to deal with people who want to leave a party. So it has happened before. I don't think the way Senator Sigia said, you can bind the people. Senator of Kisumu has a right. He can tomorrow wake up and resign. He will say, I don't identify with the ideals of Orange Democratic Movement. I am opting to resign and seek fresh mandate on UDA. I don't think anybody can buy him. That's a constitutional right.
So if you're having a breakaway from ODM as well?
What do you mean?
Well, if we have rebels within ODM,
yes.
It seems maybe they will be like what we had before. ODM Kenya or ODM, another party, a branch out of ODM with this particular faction.
I don't come from Luo Nyanza, but I don't.
No,
think,
you're with ODM.
I don't think politically. Let's now talk about politics. You know, people have tried this, and you know, when you do something, go back history memory lane, and see those who have attempted what has happened to them. You know, people like Governor Orengo, they tried this. Senator Nyong'o tried this in Luo Nyanza. They didn't succeed. In fact, when Orengo tried, that's the only
he still out of Parliament.
He ever lost, and he stayed out of Parliament. The same with Professor Anyang.
Was it under Safina?
Yeah, under Safina. So I think in terms of Luo Nyanza, Raila Odinga still has a very strong grip of that region. You go against him at your own peril, politically. But as I said, you have a constitutional right. If you think...
Well, people will argue and say this is a very different stream of time altogether, not in comparison to where Orengo was or Anyang' Nyong'o was. People have shifted their paradigms in terms of party nuances.
But even recently, there was an honorable member for Rongo. He's got the former member for Rongo who started something. Was it Karawas?
Dalmas Atieno.
Yeah, Dalmas Atieno. You know, he started something called Karawas.
Kalaus.
Karaus. It was exactly what is happening here. He wanted to start another party to undermine ODM in that region. And you can see what happened. So let them try. And the signs are very not good for them. You know, the other day we were at Manzoni. And the MP for Langata, he came down there. He couldn't even access the room. This Saturday, there was this big rally in Kisumu. We were being told by our colleagues who were down there that the senator just tried to test the waters by bringing some young men with the placards written on his name. They were chased all the way to Kakamega, almost. But they had moved. So you can see, let them try. We wish them
On the
well.
ground is different.
We wish them well. No, nothing has changed
Let me say something about that debate. And I'm loving the direction this debate is taking. We are all fundamentally right when Senator Omogeni and Honorable Makali speaks about the entitlement of every Kenyan, every region, every person entitled to development. We are all right, and that is actually the obligation of every government of the day. You would not expect then a sober leadership to begin saying, since you didn't vote for us, you're not going to get this development. That is not what the law expects. That is not what the government of the day would do. And this one has come out clearly from the first day the president took over office, saying that it doesn't matter who voted for which formation. I am the president of Kenya for those who voted for us and those who voted for our competitors. That is the bottom line, and that is not something that we can have a debate about. It's not as it were. And answering what my colleague has said about what the deputy president said, I was actually in Kericho for that homecoming ceremony of the principal secretary for water, Dr. Paul Rono, and the last person to speak was the deputy president. And I'm so clear in my mind, he was misquoted as to a conversation about, I will pick you in the queue if you didn't vote for us so that development can be done for those who voted in. That is not what he said. That is the creation of the people who gave the presentation. What the deputy president was trying to say, and I'm not holding brief for anyone, I'm just being a leader, a Kenyan who understands that every government, whether you're in opposition or not, is entitled to the service of the government that is in office. And so that is the issue. Everyone will pay taxes, and they must get what that taxes is for them. And that is why we're talking about 385 billion going down to the people at all counties, from Kisumu to Garissa, from Masai Mara, that is in Narok, to Mombasa coastal region, without necessarily saying this one voted us in and this one did not. Same case applies to the 22%, which my colleagues have said it is going to the members of parliament for purposes of doing the roads. That in itself is a show of the entitlement of every Kenyan to benefit from the government of the day, whether they're in opposition or not. Now, to the conversation about entitlement or the rebel groups that are coming in from ODM or Azimio, I'm happy that the Honorable Makali and his team have decided to stick together and be one. He's used very interesting language, and that is why politics is very interesting. He spoke about the people who went to State House and said that they were going for selfish interest. He also spoke about politics being interests. So there are two definitions here. There is personal selfish interest, there is politics and interest, and the interest is you will go to where your interest will be served. That is, you have been given an opportunity by the people to serve them. So participate in an environment where your interests will be protected. That is the bottom line about politics. As to whether or not the people who went to State House were asking for this government support or not is another story for another day. Because remember, we have said they are all entitled. Whether or not you're in ODM, Azimio, UDA, or whichever party, name them, you must be served by the government of the day, because those are Kenyans, they are paying taxes, they must be given services. But then, so let them go, have tea, talk, but at the end of the day, let their people be served by the government of the day, which does not require them to go. You look at this cartoon here. I wish we could lay it out there. There is ODM. I believe the person carrying the basket is the party leader.
Yes.
I can pick around 4 or 5 things. Number one is that he's struggling to carry that load. There is a crack in one corner of that basket.
Yes.
There are 2 or 3 oranges that has dropped. When you look at the path that he's walking, the road itself that he's going through,
it's slimy.
It's slimy. I don't know whether those are skulls or I don't know.
These are eggshells.
Yeah, I mean, when you say managing expectations, it means things are unwell. Probably the party leader is unwell. Probably the party leader is old. Probably the party leader is tired. He is no longer able to carry the load that he has, and it is depicted very well. The other one is saying, who will blink first? So now that we're talking about the rebels and those who are still loyal, the whole conversation in the cartoon is about the struggle that is in there. Members are entitled to choose where to go. And I like it when Makali says about what happened in Kisumu. The Secretary General of ODM prosecuted a disciplinary case before the crowd in Kisumu, which is very wrong for a lawyer, a very experienced Secretary General, and was still against a colleague in the Senate. But that is politics, as we said, where your interests are served very well. At the end of the day, Professor Ojenda, Senator for Kisumu, will comfortably say, I have not been given an opportunity even to defend myself, because I'm sure he's appearing in the course of the week, from what we heard before the Senate committee, for choosing to just have tea in State House, not necessarily to demand for that which is your right. It is his right. It's the right thing for the people of Kisumu. I probably think Raila is tired. He's old and he's exiting. I don't agree with Omogeni when he says that he's still there holding. We have the MP for Ugenya, the Honorable David Ocheng, with his MDG party. He went in through a by-election. He came back. So Luo Nyanza is changing. The direction of the new breed of leadership is exerting for its space and its entitlement. And that is why we have the Honorable Chanda and Honorable Jalango saying, we want to lead a rebel group. This conversation is true, and we are waiting to see the fruits of this rebel group. And not that we would want to bring down a political party. Far from it. Those are internal rankles that the Honorable Makali and his team have tried to now support. But the ODM, the house is cracking, it's crumbling, and we are getting to see, and we will see new leadership styles, and probably another orange to erupt somewhere in the middle of all this conversation. That is my take.
Yeah, another orange. Okoko, you tell us which orange will you be taking cover? This particular original orange.
I tried to read the Constitution very clearly and understand it. And really, I once I'm elected as a member of Nyamira County as an ODM party. I thank my people and I'm proud. In terms of development, as I've said, nobody stops me. I do it every day. Nobody stops me from trying to follow the government of the day. What's happening? I did it last Parliament. You remember C.S. Matiang'i was the Minister of Internal Security. I was an ODM senator. Nothing stopped me from reaching out.
Thank you.
To ensure that
is the way to go.
Actually, you do it every day.
I do it, and even now, as you know, I will not shy off. I told you, I speak with pain when I talk about the suffering of my people. This teacher who died comes from near my village in Tinga, the guy who committed suicide. It's come from Ting in West Mogrango constituency. And that is, one road from Tinga to an hospital called Itambe. That's one of the roads that were meant to be tarmacked. And we are going to say this thing, Senator Sege.
Yes.
That's one of the roads that were meant to be tarmacked.
I will answer you that one because I also have...
Those are one of the roads that were meant to be tarmacked. But what my people on the ground are learning is that the government seems to have taken away money, 17 million, paid somebody, I don't know whether that money was eaten, and that road has never been tarmacked. This teacher, who was living in Tinga Market, coming from the neighboring constituency, Kitutu Masabat, Iringa, committed suicide because he could not handle some issue dealing with debts. And that's the suffering that I'm talking about. And I'm speaking for the people I represent. Me, I was elected by Nyamira people to address the issues of concern. And I'm happy that you have now shed off this thing of Deputy President telling us that, being in Wood administration is a private company where you have 7 million shareholders. That should never come from a person occupying that position, Dibal. You cannot say, ushuru kutoka kwa wote, lakini maendeleo kwa wachache. You can't do that. You know, that's how you destroy countries. And we don't want countries like Kenya to be destroyed, Dibal. I was in Libya in 2009. And you could hear the complaints from people, you know, saying here we are just being told not to talk to Nafinywa. And when it exploded, you saw what happened. You know, in Tunisia, it took one guy to burn himself up because life was so hard and unbearable. And you saw what happened. So we want you people from Muda, you are our friends. You are a professional, very respected lawyer and a very promising politician. To tell the king when he's naked, tell our Deputy President Gachagua, there are statements you should not make. There are statements that should not be made, the bar, from a leader occupying that position. Like what he did over the weekend, if he gets the first opportunity, he should actually apologize to the people of Kenya. That's what we expect from our leader. Let's have competition of who occupies State House. Once the contest is done, the bar, we shake hands. And then we will say we'll put you on check as the government of the day. But in terms of development, let each region get access to development because we are all taxpayers. If I call a meeting in Nyamira and ask people who have in one way or another paid tax, they will all be there. From the borders, who are your supporters, but whom you need to be very careful. You are losing them very, very fast. The mamambogas, the tea farmers, the milk, the dairy farmers, they are all paying taxes and they deserve development like anybody else. We'll reach out to some of our colleagues, you know, who are serving first time. Maybe they have not understand how things operate, how things work. And remind them that a member of parliament has 140 million. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, through CDF.
Yeah, through CDF. And what we should actually be advocating is that when you are sharing out this money, we need to audit and see, is this money enough to pay fees for all the needy children? That's what we should be advocating as elected members of parliament, so that we ensure that if it is Bomet, Senator Segei, all needy children should get access to the bursary that can support their education all the way to university. That's what we call development, you know. If it is the railway network, when you look at the surrounding countries, you see what Tanzania is doing. It's trying to connect its railway to all the way to, what is this tiny country of Kagame? Rwanda. You look what Tanzania did. It went all the way to Djibouti. So as elected leaders, you don't need to go to State House to ensure that the railway connects us all the way to Uganda. Because I'm told Museveni is doing his high-speed railway to Malaba. We connect it. Then that way we're able to ensure that we are making this country better than we found it.
But you know, the other issue is, you know, from what Senator Mugeni is saying, you know, with new members of parliament who have come, and ordinarily you would imagine that when you come to parliament, they are new, you would want to share some platform with the old members to just learn the ropes in parliament. But you know, anytime you have some who just come in and they think that Mr. Know-it-all. Know-it-all. You know, you come, have been elected, and you think you're the first one to be elected, so you do things without thinking. So I think that really what I'm seeing is some of the new members need to settle, and then just, you know, there's no harm asking, if I do this, what are the likely outcomes? So that people prepare you. Because I remember at one point, there's this young MP from Mumias East. It's called last year. You remember when we went for a PG? And he had, I think he had done something very funny. He was not expected. I think he attended some national day. So after people discussed, he just stood and said, "My party leader, I'm sorry, I didn't know." You know, he was very open, just that I didn't know. And people just clapped for him and excused him, and we moved on. And today, you know, he's very loyal. He would always want to ask, "Can I do this?" So this other time, you know, when Jarango came to Manzoni, I remember my party leader saying he wished that the young men out there would have allowed him to come in to explain his case. You know, the was bid wasn't even given that time to get
to explain. Yeah.
Was it that denial on instructions?
So, no, you know the thing is, parties have different ways of handling their things.
Yes,
you know, there is for our side as Mio, because of the Nairobi support. We have very many young guys in Nairobi who support Azimio, and they are very aggressive guys. So anytime they think you are against Baba, they want even to deal with you before you before you get where Baba is to say I'm sorry. So I would just say, I wish the new members of Parliament would just talk more to the old members. We'll be able to help them out. We'll be able to guide them. Because at one point when we were meeting, I remember when I mentioned that actually we can actually be able to access development through the budget making process in Parliament. Some was like their eyes were open. You mean I can even push for my, because the most critical word here is equity and fairness. If with the budget making process you ensure there is equity and fairness, every region will get development. And that's why I don't agree with what the deputy president. And I think it's gay.
Yes.
The message you should go out here is, the president is very clear on matters serving all Kenyans equally.
Yes.
But the deputy president is letting him down. You know, the president will make very clear statements, but when the deputy president gets a mic, the kind of things he says, then, and you know, they are under something called the presidency. This constitution talks about the president. Is that doesn't talk about a president and deputy president, the presidency. So I think the president should be on the same page, so that when the president talks and the deputy president talks, we hear the same message going out to Kenyans. This double way of communicating is actually causing fears. And the other thing is, you are telling us to come to your side, and then you're also telling us those who come late, who will that's part of the queue. So what is the motivation for me to come?
At least you're inside.
At the end of the queue. Okay.
You have to say about Tinga Road.
I wanted to ask
I
wanted to ask the question about, if you're talking about the newbies, you know, the new members of Parliament, and they are not really grasping the issues, also to do with budget, then what was the purpose of this induction? 2 weeks induction that you had in Mombasa. I thought these were the processes that you should have gone through and given an understanding on what to expect you as a legislator. This is the budgetary allocation you have from the CDF. This is what is expected for you to be pushing for your constituency, instead of going to State House.
No, you know, this induction only took place 2 weeks ago. So I'm sure through the induction some are picked up, but also the program was also very loaded. So I'm telling you, you might not pick everything, but there are also things don't run.
But there are certain things you can pick from a program, surely, like anything to do with money that will pop out for you.
That's okay, but I'm telling you, if you look at what is happening, the area where they seem to be not doing well is what I would call political relationships. You know, you are politicians. How do you conduct yourself as a politician? And at the same time, you know, there's this was, you know, I think it's because of the historical situation where anytime you visited State House during the era of President Moi, your area would get a lot of goodies as a result of that visit. You know, that is, with this constitution, the 2010 constitution, and I think Kenya should actually thank those who came up with this document. This was a transformational document. Things have changed. Parliament is empowered. You can do a lot of things through Parliament. There are very strong checks and balances within the constitution that none of these arms of government can really take and dominate the other arms of government. There is always give and take. There's a lot of interdependence, that you can't do things alone. And to me, I think it's just a matter of internalizing the document. And as a member of Parliament, because you are a lawmaker, you'll be able to have very minimal problems, even when you're in the minority side like us.
All right, Sige.
Yes, thank you. The conversation is taking a very interesting twist, which is okay, and it's politics. But allow me to comment on one, the hustler. Because when my colleagues talk about, we have forgotten about the people who actually matter most. It's all over the country, and I had said this earlier on, that the economy is not doing very well. We all know that, and the government is trying to stabilize it. It's trying to make sure that at least it's able to serve. Even with the lowest level, they are feeling it. So when Okongo says that the hustler has been forgotten, I tend to say it is not true. The only reason why they are seen to have been forgotten is because that is the larger population. That is where we all feel as leaders every other time we go back to our villages. When you look at the Hustler Fund, it will and it has transformed. It's still in its cradle stage, but I can tell you there are places where people have felt that this is going to be a game changer if we continue and if we sustain it. The release of the CDF has allowed all the MPs across the country to release the bursaries, and a number of those pupils or students who naturally would rely on them have at least been facilitated to go back to school. The boda guys who are paying for their fuel, 54 shillings that goes in as tax in every liter that you pay, is the struggle which this government is trying to do to ensure that it lowers the cost of that fuel. And when that happens, everybody, remember, will be feeling at least that difference. And that is why the other day...
But isn't the government also changing tone on the subsidy? Right? Because first of all, you're doing away with the subsidy. Now you've realized...
yes, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, but it's not sustainable, but now you want to bring back the subsidy.
No, I mean the subsidy itself, from the policy level, when it started, it is not sustainable. For how long will you do it? That is why...
But at least it was cushioning. Because it has created chaos. That's why you want to actually get back the subsidies, isn't it?
Yes. That's what I'm saying now, as we speak right now.
Then I'm inclined to wonder, why are we removing it in the first place?
Look at it this way, Debala. You have a policy that is in place, right? You've come in. You want to do things your way because you want to do it for the long term, not as a stopgap measure. Look at the example of fertilizers. When it was subsidized, it could not serve to the longest term. Right now, that is a struggle the Minister of Agriculture is doing, and it has managed it, by the way. What we are only praying for is we need to have the rains. Once we have the rains, farmers will plant. Once we have food supplied across the country, that challenge will reduce, that will reduce the challenge in terms of at least feeling the presence of government at the lowest level. There is so much that is happening, only that we would want to criticize at a very objective level the failures that the government has. At the same time, let's give it credit where it deserves, because they have. That's what I can tell you. Last week, that was on Friday, I had, the reason why I was talking about the fuel and the effort the government is doing is because the CS Energy was with the Energy Committee in Nairobi, where he was, of course, defending his budget. And in the sidelines, we had a conversation about the efforts they are making to at least reduce the cost of fuel. And they are at an advanced stage in terms of getting how to unlock the challenge that they are having, both in terms of financing and the supplies. When we get there, Dibal, we will have felt at the lowest level, those hustlers, those mamambogas, the border guys, everyone else will have, including me and my colleagues here, will feel that change when the price of fuel comes down, because it cuts across every other sector. And in terms of farmers, we've got the fertilizer story that we are trying to do. We've got also, I'm sponsoring a bill on tea farmers, which I know he will benefit. I know my colleague Makau doesn't grow tea there, but it will also, because we are looking at the general agriculture sector that cuts across. We've had tea here. So across, there are efforts being done by the government to support the farmer, the boda guy, the mamamboga, and any other person at the lowest level, so that they feel some bit of pressure is easing from them in order for them to survive. Right. Looking at, there's something my colleague had talked about here, a contractor, I think it's called Tinga Road or something, I don't know, where you're saying 17 million has been paid. One of the things that I've done, because I'm also chasing on projects representing my people. I mean, there's a road from Chebole going down to Siong Road, it's a tarmac, but it's in bad state. There is another contractor who left from the road to Sigor, which was a tarmac, sometimes back. So in the process of all now, we are representing our people, and we are knocking on these doors to ask, when is this contractor going back on site? Our people are asking, when will this tarmac road be completed? Same case applies to us. And I am aware that there isn't any contractor. I earlier on talked about 900 billion being pending bills. Most of contractors who are doing roads left side because they have never been paid for almost 2 years. What happened? Money that was meant to be used for projects to pay contractors was diverted to the BBI story. All that 900 billion is pending. The reason why most of these contractors, Okongo Mageni left side, is because they have literally had their machines lying idle for 2 years. They have not been paid. They have released certificates, and there was no hope. But now, there is hope. Now I was getting there, so that I answer I also give hope to my colleague, because I'm now living on hope on the basis of the information that I've gotten, that these guys are going back to site because the government is almost able to release some payment on pending bills so that all contractors go back on site for those projects which were suspended. They were already going on, suspended for non-payment. And so there is no 17 that was paid, but I know that contractor will probably come back to site anytime soon because the government is already unlocking on the payments.
You know, as our business is to, you know, we as we are grown-ups, and you know, in Nyamira we are predominantly God-fearing people.
Yes.
Dibal, the DP himself, in the company of the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, came when they were seeking secondary election, and they promised the people of Nyamira that they will tarmac that particular road, Tinga Inaitambe Chogo Road. And we had made very good progress on ensuring that that road is tarmacked, and there's several other roads in Nyamira. So we are going to be very alert, because we have listened to this statement by the Deputy President. You are my neighbor.
Thank you.
I'll be monitoring. If I see contractors in Bomet, Dubai, and they are not in Nyamira, we'll talk about this thing. Can I say one thing?
We're about to wind up, but I would be remiss if we don't really talk about
there is one thing I wanted to say. There is one thing I wanted to say briefly about Asla Fund. You know, nobody understands how this Asla Fund is run. We are getting into the same problem of being told that this Asla Fund is run by a private entity. And, you know, we say these things so that the government they watch this program. They know where they have made mistakes, they go and correct it. You know, most people, especially from Nyamira, most people never took this fund because they were told, this is a loan you are getting. If you don't repay, your cows will be taken away. Your land will be auctioned. So you are telling people about Asla Fund that they have not accessed.
I hope you're not the one telling the people that their cows will be sold. I hope it was
because you know, you launch something that's why when you do something, you know, you do it properly.
Yes.
You do public participation. Come down to the people, talk to them. Tell them how this fund is going to operate. Because you told, the women tell us, you know, me, I interact with people, Senator Sige.
Yes.
The women say, the president told us when he takes over, we Mama Mboga will get money to open supermarkets. We have not gotten the money. The border guys you are saying never went to school. I want to assure you, I can come with that. I think I'll table a report in Parliament. My borders are people who have degrees, university degrees.
A lot of them are very
A lot of them. So you are not in touch.
When you are telling
where
I come from.
When you are telling us that you cannot appoint them to be cabinet administrative secretaries because they have no education, I'll give you names.
No.
Of the ones from Nyamira who have gone to school, Dibal, they are well educated. They can do that job better than I can do it, maybe, because they understand the problems of the people. So don't create excuses that you will not give border jobs because they have not gone to school.
I actually didn't say
you don't even understand.
Not because of that. I said
you don't even know them. You don't know the borders.
I hate to interrupt you, but I must correct you on this one. I must correct you on this.
The only one I agree with you is Johnny come late. I'm with you. You know, these guys who have defected after you have won. I support people like Shadrach Mose. Deserves to be a Solicitor General because he has been with the DP.
And you asked for it the other day, and now you got it. So let's approve it when it gets to Parliament.
Former MP for West Mogrango, Kemosi, Akas, that's okay. But these protesters who are just changing, they agree with the Uda. These guys who are just running that they are now leaving.
They Johnny come late.
Johnny come late. Yes. This one should be on the queue. I wish they can be number one and number one.
But maybe just on the issue of the roads, I think it's important just to mention this, Dibal. I think this issue of stored roads is across all over the country.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for us, like now, if you look at the Kibwezi-Kitui Mwingi Road, it goes stuck to a place just about 19 kilometers to the junction to Mwingi. And we have been pushing this as leaders from the region. And nothing is, the contractor also to leave site because of non-payment. So I'm sure that, the government needs to do something about that, because, you know, when you don't complete a project, then you don't even realize the value for money. Yes. You also don't achieve the expected benefits to the community, and it's important. Then the other issue is the issue of bursaries. It's true that some money has been released to DBAL, but we are also facing challenges as members of parliament, because the amount released up to date is not enough to give to all the students. So you find you have some amount which you don't know who to give and who to leave. So how I wish that the money, because budget bursary is normally about 35% of the total allocation. How I wish that we could get at least 35% of the allocation, so that we list this to the students. So we are still getting calls every day, 100 calls.
Thank you. No, I've got just a few minutes before we wind up, because I wanted to ask on the issue of the pending bills. I think the government also is mulling the idea of coming up with a float. Is it a pending bill float or something like that from Treasury? Yes, some sort of a bond that will actually come and ease this particular.
No, the thinking was what they call infrastructural bond.
It's not really, no, it's not the infrastructional bond. It's not.
For the roads, that was the thing. Actually, the roads. So what you remember? Something which
not for the roads. For actually the pending bills. The pending bills. Yeah, for the pending bills. Yes, yes. I read something like that. Maybe if I have more clarity on it, then we can discuss.
So that's discuss it next week. No more possible borrowing through the public borrowing.
Yeah. So, but I wanted just to bring us up to speed, even as we're winding up briefly, because you, as the chair of the JLAC,
yes.
Johnson Mudama, now will be appearing before you.
Yes, for purposes of vetting.
Now he's not officially the chair of UD anymore.
He has got to resign.
He's got to resign.
Yes. For him to be a commissioner at the Parliamentary Service Commission, he's got to resign as the chairperson of the UDA party. Yes.
And last week also with the Senate, there was a lot of drama, especially with, there's a lot of drama as I looked and watched what was happening regarding the new House committee, right? Fatuma Dulo being chased out from
the new leadership.
From the new leadership, and why also was there no consensus on the new leadership led by Ledama and the rest?
I don't know, either we could go fast because he's
briefly, because we're winding up as well.
You know,
unfortunately, he was not in.
You know, DBAL, somebody has said she does not belong to a coalition. The coalition calls for parliamentary group meeting to elect the new leadership.
Yeah, that's true.
And tell the other one, if you have elected to go, bye-bye. You leave. A whip is a very important person. Senator Sige knows that.
Yes.
A whip is the person who mobilizes support from the minority side. So Senator Dulo says, and she made look at the clip. You can Google. She made a pronouncement and said, "I'm done with Azimio." So we met.
How do we put that?
And we said we want to elect a new whip. So we elected Senator Ledama to be a new whip, and we elected Sifuna to be a deputy whip. But when we take that communication to the floor, and there is precedent, it has happened. And you know, I want to tell the Speaker, King, that even during Moi's time, you know, there are rights you cannot take away from members of parliament. As Speaker, when Moi was Moi, when Kanu was Jogo, there is single time when Shukuku was stopped from making his contribution on the floor.
Not at all.
Because standing orders allowed him to talk. He could even talk the whole afternoon. But here is a case where we take that communication to the floor. And my good friend, who is a lawyer, Speaker King, does not want to accept that communication and make that communication from the chair that the minority side has made these changes. That's what is causing problems. You know, accept. You can't have your cake and eat it. Right. If Senator Dulo, who I respect, and she's my good friend, has opted to move to the other side, be honorable and say, I've left that position of whip, let the ones who have remained. We could be few, yes, but the ones who have remained and they are willing to walk the talk, run the course.
Thank you.
Let them take the leadership.
All right, let's give it that because of time.
Please tell the speaker to respect the standing orders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make the communication so that we change that.
Thank you.
Let me add my voice there.
No. I want us to maybe you can just give your closing remarks on that. Okay, so the next time we can pick up on it. Yeah. I think this is still a developing story.
You know, we've been through this road before, during the host of the now CS Road, Kipchumba Murkomen as the majority leader by Jubilee. I was his lawyer. I went through the court session. I served court orders, and that communication was at some point made which was actually completely against what the court order had said, and reasons were to be given. We are still waiting for the reasons up to date. We have passed that bridge, and I know the Speaker did not decline to communicate. What the Speaker said is that I've received this letter, I've received another letter, and in the interest of serving both parties and serving justice, because the law says justice should not just be done, should be seen to be done.
Thank you.
What will I do to a letter that has come? As I close then, so I believe and I know that the House will do that which is right to serve the interest of all the members of the House, because we are guided by standing orders. There is law, and I'm sure in the right time the Speaker will communicate from his desk to the
right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Actually, if I were the whip who was moved to Jubilee, I will even initiate my removal. I will not wait for the party to do it, because it means if I've left a party, do I even have the moral authority to whip the members of that party? I don't know. So I think even as the Speaker says he's waiting for communication, it is automatic that the whip should leave that space for somebody else. But as I conclude, I think we have really talked about the cost of living. Kenyans are suffering out there. And really I would wish both the majority and the minority, we quickly think about how we can
thank you. 20 seconds.
In fact, I shouldn't add anything other than to just echo what Honorable Makali has said. Kenyans are suffering, and the government should really have a wake-up call, Dibal, and look at ways of addressing this suffering. He has talked about subsidy. That should have come like yesterday, because the moment you increase fuel, there is a trickle-down effect. Essential goods skyrocket, and we must do something to reduce the suffering of Kenyans.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time this morning. Time is ticking away from us, but there is a lot we'll have discussed. Thank you so much. We can pick up on that next week. So we'll be looking at what will be happening also in Parliament this week as well. And all that will be on the internet next week. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching StandPoint here on Morning Prime. Don't go away. We have the sports shot coming up next with Jeff Mogire.